Doug, let's just take it.
Make sure you highlight the aircrafts.
The aircrafts? Oh, yeah, here they are. I see that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So an F-18 got close to a citation in Austin, and the F-18 or the citation took evasive action after receiving an onboard alert. The FAA will determine how close the two aircrafts got to each other as part of its ongoing investigation. This article interviews someone named Mike Slack, who is a managing partner at Slack Davis Sanger, and I've been going through this article trying to figure out why that matters, and I missed it.
I didn't figure it out either.
Yeah, I guess it's because he's an aviation litigator and a pilot, and he references the different languages and different radio frequencies, both, which is an interesting point. The military pilots are using different jargon and different frequencies.
Not all the time. We'll get to that, though.
It's the third close call at Austin this year, and there was a close call with a FedEx Cargo and a Southwest, and then there was another airline that we may have heard of down here.
Giant.
Giant. The Giant folks. They they came too close to a small plane while landing. So they had a safety summit, and they're going to fix it.
Okay, so I've got one for you. This one is actually, I found this after I wanted that one because it says aircrafts and it was stupid. But Flying Magazine actually did a little bit more in depth, and this is really what we're going to talk about. So it was a Marine Hornet, and they were in the area, and it says radio traffic revealed that the Citation had been cleared to land as the Hornet approached. Okay, let's get the mental picture here. The Hornet was cleared to execute the brake. Right, we know what that is. So it's the 180-degree turn, and then you're downwind, and another 180-degree turn to land. And the air traffic controller expressed surprise at the F-18's descent, and another voice on tape added, "That'd have been nice to know, guy." So they're getting a little feisty with each other. According to the WAPO, after landing, the Hornet pilot asked for a phone number to contact ATC, and the controller replied, "Yeah, I was going to give you a number here because I guess there was a miscommunication. I misunderstood what was requested, I guess." Which, by the way, you can call all day long. It's not going to go very far. According to the FAA, they said that he overflew runway 18 left when a Piper PA-28 was preparing for takeoff. He was in the area and stopped for fuel. So it doesn't say, did they start on 18 right? Why did they say? Okay, I'm a little confused here, and this is why I'm confused, because look how far the runways are apart. You ever landed at Austin? No. Okay, so it sounds like, because I've been here, and we've taken Hornets here. Actually, I've taken Hornets here. I've taken airliners here. I've been here all different flavors because it's a good place to land and get lunch, and cross country or whatever. So it sounds like, barring anything else, where he says overflew 18 left where he was preparing, dude, that's standard, right? So he comes up initial, so 18 left, hits somewhere around the numbers, brakes. Of course he's going to overfly a dude that's taking off. That's standard. That's a military thing. We do it all the time. I don't know about the descent, but that Citation must have been somewhere. For a standard carrier brake, right, you start 800 feet, you descend 600 feet, and then you're 450 around, which is different than what the Air Force does, which is a 1,500 foot brake, and off the perch is where you descend.
Well, so in the Navy and the Marines, when you ask for the brake, it's 1,500 feet.
Okay.
If you ask for the carrier and they say yes, then you bring it down.
Do you descend if you ask for the brake?
What do you mean?
These guys, do they descend? Is it a descending turn?
I mean, it's a visual maneuver. So your VMC,
right? But a normal brake in a Hornet, when you brake, do you maintain level or do you descend? Okay. So I don't know where they're saying, hey, he shouldn't have descended, but it sounded like the Citation guy, because what happens with these civilian airplanes, this happens all the time. We'll give them an RA because of the rapid rate of descent we're doing. I mean, I've climbed into the bozosphere, and you give the tanker an RA because, the dude didn't, we didn't turn it off or whatever. because of the high rates of this climbing and descent and stuff like that. But it sounds like it's just a miscommunication. And if the other guy wasn't here, it was because they were on UHF, because they've got. So what happens, for those that don't know, we have a uniform frequency, UHF, ultra high frequency, and then VHF frequencies, because we have 2 radios. And ARC 210s can actually do either on either of them.
Yep.
But typically we like to do UHF because we don't want to hear all the, we don't want to hear any traffic in the area. Please advise. I'm set. Like, shut up, dude. We want to hear, yeah, because you talk too much. Just shut up. Just shut it. And so what happens, though, is what the controllers will do is they'll simulcast. So they'll have a tower frequency that's UHF and VHF, and they'll just hit the button and they're talking both of them at the same time. So the controller is hearing both of you. You are hearing the controller, but anybody else off frequency is not hearing.
Yeah. I mean, so I've I've got a little bit of experience in kind of everything you're talking about. So I got a similar thing happened to me once. I flew a Hornet in Akron, and when I landed, I asked for their phone number to call them, because what they did was, and I was in the habit of, when I was flying in the civilian fields, I wanted to hear all the local yokels, so I would always run VHF so I could hear.
Right.
And so I'm coming in Akron, Canton. I'm flying from Oceana Hornet to see my parents, because that's the closest airport I get to my home there. And I asked them, I was like, hey, could I get the overhead? They cleared me for the overhead. So I also started rapid descent out of altitude. And then I said, hey, can I get the carrier brake? And they said, clear for the carrier brake. So, man, I'm coming into the field and I'm accelerating to 350 knots. And literally, as I'm passing about 325, the controller just keys the mic and he's like, how fast are you going? I said, I'm accelerating to 350. I'm at 325. And he's like, are you aware of the 205 knot airspeed? I mean, he just started reading, like, I'm literally coming into the break, and like he gets done yelling at me. And not to hate on regional guys, but they're no longer in business anymore, but some Masaba regional piece of crap taxiing, and he's like, don't you know what the FARs are? And I'm, dude, if I had rounds in the gun, he would have been just a smoking hole. I was so mad. So anyways, I come into the break, 324 knots, whatever it is, and I land and I call him. I was like, hey man, what's the phone number of the tower? And basically what it was, it's not a joke.
Well,
basically
the gun part, that's
that part is a joke.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
But basically, I was like, they asked me, like, why were you going so fast? Like, why did you clear me for the carrier? And I said, and furthermore,
you're lucky I was going faster.
Well, I knew, I was like, I'll just do 350 because I don't want to get in trouble, which is what we're supposed to do. And I said, listen, do not clear any pointy nose tactical aircraft for the overhead brake and expect them to do 200 knots, because these planes don't fly at that speed.
Oh, dude. Well, and there's an argument, and there's a reason that NATOPS and Dash 1 are very specific about that, because of the AOA.
Yeah.
You have no over-the-nose visibility. Your best over-the-nose visibility is 350 knots.
Well, and, oh, by the way, you're very maneuverable. So if you need to maneuver, you can. If you're doing 200 knots, dude, and someone's in your way and you pull back on the stick, you're still going to hit them.
And you say that, and I'm wondering, like, when they're like, the Citation had to make evasive maneuvers, which is like,
yeah.
I mean, what does he do? Like,
so that's the other thing. So the other time I had a little run-in with ATC. I was in a brand new Super Hornet at ESA radar, and
nice.
I go blasting off out of NES Lemoore, and this time it was my fault a little bit. And I wasn't, my wingman was in a Legacy Hornet, and he, like, on takeoff, he's like, oh, look, I've got a half air degrade, a left AMAT, I got a right AMAT. Like, he just starts, and I'm just like,
I have all the cautions.
Yeah, like, I'm like, okay. And so, like, I'm trying to help him, and I think we're supposed to level off at 10,000, and I was screaming, right? And so,
yeah, I hate when that happens. Yeah,
right. So, like, I'm like, oh crap! So boom, I balloon up to like 10.3, and then bring it back down to 10, and I had the ESA out there, and there's nobody out there, and he said that, oh my gosh, you set off TCAS
RA.
alert. Yeah, and they had to maneuver. Here's a phone number, and I called. I'm like, listen, man, I get it. I blew the altitude by 300 feet, and the rate of climb is what sets it off. And I said, I had ACE radar, man. I didn't see nothing. And yeah, the nice thing is in the military is the FAA can't really touch you.
Yeah, they
don't even talk to him. You're not supposed to talk to him.
On file. That's what I was just saying a while ago.
Yeah.
Is okay. You can talk to my union rep here.
Correct. Which is what happened. The skipper called me in. He's like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "We're good to go." So
yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of it, dude, like this in this case here is ATC doesn't understand, but they're trying to be
accommodating. Depends on where you are.
Yeah,
it depends on where you are. I mean, if in Austin, that would be a place where they are accommodating, and I don't understand the confusion here. So it could be a new controller, could be somebody that came from somewhere else or whatever.
Right.
But places that get a lot of transient military are usually pretty good.
Yeah.
And they understand, they have their training. I mean, it's just like anything else. I'm not going to blame the controllers.
And people make mistakes.
Yeah, people make mistakes, and right. And I think sometimes on the, you don't know what you don't know, especially on the civilian side. You don't understand if all your mindset is I'm used to approaching at 90 knots or 100 knots over the fence, and 200 knots is a big deal, 250 knots are a big deal. Like, it's hard to grasp how fast a fighter is moving relative to everything else. Like, even if they did hear each other, it would have been like a dog watching TV. It's like, initial, what does that mean? I've never dealt with this before. And what is the timing like? Because people see the airplane and are like, well, he's straight in to land. So, the overhead is just not common.
Well, and the other thing is, thinking back on it, like, I used a Navy term with this civilian controller, and could I have? That just makes sense. But but that's the other thing. It's like, what I learned from that too is like, okay, listen, if you're going into places like Akron, Canada, that probably never saw a Hornet, it's like, if you ask for the carrier, you need to explain it to them, because dude, they just know what's in the FAR, turbojet.
Yeah. Well, when they hear it, I have explained it to them, and they're like, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, well, I didn't. I didn't. I was in a bit of the short hairs, and I wanted to come in for the carrier for my parents. But I mean, but stuff happens, right? Miscommunication is like one of the biggest things in any aviation accident. I mean, whether it's between crew or.
And if you look back, I mean, I know like Weather Channel or History Channel, one of those channels have the air disasters or whatever, where the F4 hits the airliner. Or, this historically it happens.
Yeah.
And I've had the same thing where your controller will ask you like, hey, I need you to slow to 200 knots, and I'm cruising along at 350 and I'm like, unable, that's just not going to happen, dude. No,
right.
Not today. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad nobody got hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
To me, the bigger problems are the ones where it's airliner v airliner. That's where, because nobody's maneuverable in that case, or some heavier aircraft. A fighter, generally speaking, as long as everybody sees each other.
Well, the other scary thing with airliner is we're all speaking the same language, so the communication should be pretty tight. So something like pretty massive must have happened, for anything, because dude,
70 feet. That's what it was. It was 70 feet.
Was it 70? Yeah, but
for the two airliners, yeah.
Well, yeah. So I mean, you definitely, you're right. That's scary.
Yeah.